couldn't have been more infuriating, patronizing, and out of touch. Just the sheer absurdity of the Meg sitting down to email People magazine her thoughts about back to school alone is super strange. But to do so in her classically unlikable Meghan way, it's no surprise it didn't go over very well. Before we get into this article from People, of course, of all places, and what Meghan said, which was hilarious on so many levels, let's begin with the motives here. There's a couple of them. Least important and least prioritized is that Meghan seems to, now that she's a mom and is raising Archie and Lily to some extent, we know she has the nanny do a lot of heavy lifting apparently, and rumors, have circulated. But setting that aside, she has been dropping hints that she wants to be associated with moms. She wants to relate to moms. She wants to connect with moms. She wants moms, her peers in theory, to be her audience base, her fan base. She's tried to tap into this since the Variety interview, where she claimed she just starts singing songs from little kids shows while she's hanging out with her friends drinking, and other weird things. I will link the playlist to all of their interviews and you can find the Variety interview there. It was a weird one. But she's been dropping hints about this ever since then, and this Bloomberg interview and this People magazine thingy here are all trying to connect with moms. But the key thing that she's getting wrong, setting all the other problems with Meghan aside, is that it's always coming from this perspective of superiority, of Meghan wanting to tell you how to do things, or, oh, I do things this way and that's so much better type of a vibe, and no one responds well to that, but especially not parents, moms and dads. You know why? Because they've already been through the boot camp of newborns and toddler tantrums and midnight shenanigans that kids put us through in the early years. And we've endured countless unsolicited pieces of advice that we no longer respond well or give the time of day to people who come at us with a superiority vibe when it comes to parenting stuff. And that's pretty universal. Every parent I've ever been friends with and ever met and ever known gets annoyed by that type of tone of voice. Because it's like, do you not think that I am parenting and momming every single day and at night? Because I am. But the more important and more obvious motives and more relevant motives are the fact that with Love Meghan, Meghan's season 2, part 2 dropped and had 0 people caring about it at all. The ratings were dismal, much lower viewership than season 1, and that wasn't even impressive to begin with. But because no one is watching with Love Meghan Part 2, she got together with her PR people and decided to try to get a little bit of press to stimulate viewership. August is a weird month for media. Most networks, streamers, and platforms, including YouTube, consider August a lower revenue month because it's a back-to-school time for a lot of families and a lot of markets. And so people are not only busier and focused on other things besides media and like consuming content, it's just sometimes a little bit lower in August. Like there's just less watch time. There's less people watching, at least not as much as they usually do. But also, perhaps more importantly, when it comes to the market and from a business perspective, they have other expenses to prioritize. A lot of viewers or a lot of people who are consuming content in the month of August also have other expenses. They've just done back to school shopping and school supplies and clothes and all those things for their kids and had to adjust their schedules. Perhaps they've had to add on after school care and things like that. So it's just a time where people have focus on other things in general, like the general trend of the market is a little bit less engaged in August. Which not only explains why it was a weird time to release with Love Meghan, like maybe not the best choice, lower traffic as it is, But it also explains why this stupid article's subject was back to school. It was trying to pull in the huge population of people who are wrapped up in back to school at the moment and may be more likely to be served this article due to recent school supply shopping, things like that, or have this subject on their minds and thus might click on this article. It wasn't inspired, it was calculated to make it a back to school article. So let's get that straight first. She needed press to try to boost with Love Meghan, and the best chance of getting said press seen during that week that it was published was to have back to school in the title of the article. End of story. It was clever marketing in a way, like clever PR in a way, but a little too see-through, and also still bad timing. Didn't really factor in the temperature of the market at the moment. Did it work? Did they salvage any viewership? I don't think so. In part because With Love Meghan sucks, and everybody knows it, secret's out. That's not going to change because of some stupid article. But also, this article is so pretentious and off-putting. Meghan sounds so rudely pretentious in it that it's not going to endear her to anyone and thus won't inspire any readers to go and watch With Love Meghan. It didn't help. But let's look at what she said, shall we? Meghan reveals 4 back-to-school tips inspired by Archie and Lily. Thank goodness she didn't put Prince and Princess there. The first week can have big feelings. Okay. Truth be told, our children have now started saying my day was just a blast, and that makes us smile to no end, the Duchess of Sussex says. Again, it would have been better to leave off the title. And yes, the first week can have big feelings, but I recall making it a priority for when we chose to start school, because where I live, you can choose to do pre-K or not, and you can choose to do kindergarten or not. And so we definitely waited for our firstborn to be excited to go to school, so it felt like his choice, and we started with half days, and we started with kindergarten. We skipped pre-K. I mean, like, we did stuff at home, but that's a different story. The point is, waiting for your kid to be excited really, really helps it to be a positive experience, and keeping school the first couple of years as a wholly positive experience. No pressure, keep it simple, keep it easy, make it fun as possible. Literally focus on making it fun and positive so that they are excited to go to school is so, so important, so that they have a positive experience. Because if they start not liking it and not wanting to go, it's not only heartbreaking and sad, but it makes everything harder. And you don't want your kid going through that. So when I read this from Meghan's mouth, knowing that she sent Lily to start school at age 3, which technically would be daycare, but she kept calling it school, neither here nor there. She started in daycare at 3 and is in preschool this year now because Lily's 4. The point is that if there's lots of big feelings, then maybe that's a sign that Lily should get more time at home and shouldn't be shoved into daycare and pre-K. If it's causing lots of big feelings, maybe she's not quite ready for the pressure of being shipped off every single day for the majority of her waking hours. Just saying, that's what I see as a mom who has experienced this age range more than once with children. That's what it feels like to me, of like, maybe you should reassess sending Lily into the fray if she's having too many big feelings. And if it's Archie, in at this point he would be like first grade at age 6, then maybe that's a sign that this has not been formulated to be a positive experience exclusively. There's too much pressure put on it or something like that. And creating a negative opinion of school when being forced to go before really necessary, according to statistics, can color a kid's opinion of school forever and have real negative impacts. So first red flag in a way. I know that sounds so traumatic, but just makes me think about it. That's all I mean. It makes me think of it from that perspective. Maybe they weren't ready. With Archie and Lily, 6 and 4, heading back to school, Markle is sharing her favorite ways to make the transition smoother and more meaningful. And here we have paragraph 2, already plugging With Love Meghan. So if you don't believe what I said at the beginning of the video, that this entire thing was just a PR push for With Love Meghan's dismal viewership, then what say you now? Here is proof. The Duchess of Sussex, 44, just returned to Netflix with season 2 of With Love Meghan, where she cooks, crafts, collaborates with guests, blah, blah, blah. Now she's channeling that same creativity into thoughtful tips for navigating the new school year. Read on for Meghan's best advice to kick off back to school season, shared exclusively with People. Yeah, we know Meghan emails people in the middle of the night, obsessively probably, compulsively. But this is a mistake. Saying that read on for her best advice. This woman has experienced only a couple of years of sending her kids to the earliest of years at school. I had my firstborn quite young. He was a surprise. I've done back to school so many more times, and so has probably the majority of readers. And just framing it as this is Meghan's best advice, this woman whose oldest is only in first grade, it just has that vibe of superiority that I was talking about at the beginning of the video that turns off a lot of moms. Whether they're experienced or not, it just feels a little bit like, why should I listen to this lady's advice? She is not an expert in anything. It's not like she's a child psychologist or somebody who taught kindergarten for forever that was like, this is what I've seen work for kindergartners that their parents do. You know, nothing like that. This woman has a blip of experience, okay? Why is she giving advice? So to frame it that way from an editorial perspective was a mistake. Anyway, it's hard to ignore that having kids aged 4 and 6, the fact that Meg just isn't exactly a seasoned school mom just yet. So it's a bit presumptive. It comes off a little pompous to frame this as Meg's advice. No one asked for her advice. When will her PR team learn? Especially when a celebrity isn't super well liked. It's never a good idea to frame things as delivering advice to the plebs. It's better to use really neutral, collaborative sort of phrases. Things like she shared ideas that helped her or that she found helpful in making back to school more fun. Not like, oh, she's sharing advice, because it needs to be less Meg gives unsolicited advice to moms who, unlike her, don't have nannies and cooks and home cleaners. Moms who are doing it all themselves do not need advice from the Meg. Never underestimate the value of a handwritten note. Scribble something for your little one and tuck it in their lunchbox. A joke, a little poem, your own version of Mad Libs, or just a sentence telling your child what your favorite thing about them is or how much you love them. First off, don't scribble, especially at ages 4 and 6. Do not scribble. They need really clear printed letters, like perfect penmanship, the way children's books have, easy readers, okay? Also, a poem, hold the phone. We're talking about early readers here. How are they going to do a poem or a Mad Lib at lunch, okay? And plus, school lunch is like 15 to 20 minutes at most at schools, which is part of the problem with their schedule. But anyway, and that validation from a parent when they're going back into school may just be the boost your child needs, whether in pre-K or as a teen. If it's in your handwriting, even better. How would it not be in your handwriting? Just take 1 minute to do it. It can go such a long way. Also, once again, does the Meg think that this is innovative or anything worth anyone's time to read? Is it revolutionary? Because I'm pretty sure we've all been leaving notes in our kids' lunchboxes their whole lives. Yes, it's not new. Notes in the lunchbox are very standard, very common. I got notes from my mom sometimes in my lunchbox. I give notes to my kids in their lunchboxes all the time. And what my little ones liked the most were little stickers because they would share them with their friends. They'd put them on their lunchbox, things like that. They loved getting stickers at lunch. And it was a fun and simple little thing. It was popular for them. They'd wear them on their shirts when they came out during pickup. It was super cute. So stickers can sometimes be a nice way to shake it up. Maybe a little bit more appropriate for daycare age and preschool age. Lily is 4. Now, 4-year-olds can read, yes. I'm not saying that they can't. My kids learned to read pretty early, but still at that age, Just like a heart that says I love you or something like that is perfect and plenty. And then something like stickers or whatnot is a little bit more interactive because they're just so little. For older kids, more complex notes can have a place for sure. A backpack surprise. Nestle a sweet something, not suggesting candy. God forbid it be candy. Why can't it be candy? Can't she let anything be fun? Look, on the first day, the first week, back to school, you should be putting candy in their lunchboxes or their backpacks. You should put candy in there. They deserve it. Their favorite like fun size or bite size in their lunchbox or their snack, because it's the first week back, it should be a requirement. I don't know why she's poo-pooing candy. The first week can have a lot of big feelings, and a little nod to let them know you see them is so special. Try a tiny pack of stickers, a funny photo of your family. I don't know about that. I don't think that would be as fun for a kid to receive. I don't know. What do you think about the photo thing? I wouldn't do it personally. Or an unexpected surprise, like something you used to find in a Cracker Jack box. What's a Cracker Jack box? Oh, okay. Well, listen, at some schools, toys can be considered like contraband. They get confiscated, or it can end up getting the little kids in trouble if they're like fighting over it, or they lose it, or they're fiddling with it when they're supposed to be paying attention or doing something else. So putting like a little toy or a trinket, as she says, it doesn't have to cost much at all, just a little trinket to celebrate the first week, tucked in as a surprise. Love is in the details. A little trinket can actually get your kid in trouble, so maybe don't do that. They give it to them when you pick them up. Have it waiting in the car, or like a balloon or something. Something fun and cute in the car for after school is smarter, because then you're making sure they don't have something that they're not allowed to have in class, especially if it's not something for everyone. Like, we would run into that a lot. If you're not bringing enough for everyone, you can't bring it in type of a vibe. That's why stickers are helpful, because you can get a sheet that has like 24 on them if you want, whatever. Anyway, or just like bake them their favorite treat, or have something special waiting for them at home, because you do have to be careful about what you send your kids to school with, especially when they're very little and don't have the self-control to be like, okay, I'll put it away and not touch it till the end of the day. That's hard for little kids. Part of my opinions on this might be a little bit colored by the fact that a lot of people in my family circle, like my relatives, are teachers or retired teachers. And so I often think about the teacher's perspective of having to manage a class full of at least a dozen kids, usually double that, and how little things like toys being brought in or, surprised in the backpack could really be a problem. But let's move on. Lunchboxes. If your kids are like mine, they love breakfast for dinner, just as I did when I was young, Meghan says about one of her go-tos for Archie and Lily. Swap out a sandwich for waffles or pancakes. You can use frozen ones. Thank God she gave permission to use frozen ones. A mini packet or scoop of jam, some bacon, and some hard-boiled eggs with salt. You can have fun with this and decorate the lunchboxes in unique ways every day. But if there's no time, just the novelty of breakfast for lunch can sometimes be a welcome win. She adds, when in doubt, a few flour sprinkles are fun too. She plugged as ever as well in this. Ridiculous. This is terrible. Brekkie for lunch is fine if your kids are into that, obviously. But don't add the dead flowers. For goodness sakes, that's gross. Come on, Meghan. Kids don't want dead flowers on their food getting soggy throughout the morning. Ew. This feels infuriating because it's so patronizing. Frozen is fine. She's given you permission to use frozen waffles or pancakes, you guys. No wonder this annoyed people to no end. Rose and Thorn. It's a classic, but sometimes we forget about this easy prompt. Taking the time at the end of the day to connect as a family and talk about your rose and thorn at dinner can be a wonderful way to bring everyone closer. You can even do this on the car ride home after the school day is over, as if no one has ever had the capability to think about this before. What is happening? Why is she outlining a standard practice for most every family? This is common sense. Why would anyone take this article, this nonsense, seriously? If you don't have anything unique or interesting or new or different or innovative or helpful to say, then don't do it at all, Meghan. Don't send the email to People magazine. Meghan, who recently shared behind-the-scenes photos of Archie and Lily visiting her on the set of the Netflix series, previously told People about her nightcap recaps with her husband, Harry. She said their evenings are marked by the tradition in which they unwind with a drink and debrief about their days while preparing lunchboxes for their kids. I don't recommend prepping lunchboxes the night before. It gets gross. It gets soggy. It gets weird. Everything is at like a different temperature, and you either just have to leave it on the counter or put it in the fridge so then everything is cold, and then condensation can happen. Bread gets soggy or dry. It's not good. You need to get up and prep them in the morning, and if that means skipping the nightcap so you can wake up early enough, then so be it. Contrast this to Catherine, Princess of Wales, giving tidbits on similar subject in much more natural, organic, and authentic ways. For example, when she greeted kids who waited to shake her hand, she asked if they were happy to be back at school, and they said no. She related to them by saying that it must mean you had a really good holiday then. It's okay to like summer and not want to go back to school. That's completely understandable. She also shared that she and her kids were crafting in every corner of the house over break. Another highly relatable moment. Rather than telling people what they should be doing and how to make their kids like school, as Meghan did, Catherine's meeting kids where they are at, and I like that. And she also set the example of saying we were crafting all summer long, which allows you to imagine the creative ways she was getting them to avoid sitting in front of screens and being involved and connecting over the summer. So much better approach. It gives enough insight without coming across as patronizing or superior. I don't know what it is about Meghan, but she just can't seem to understand how to actually relate and not come off like she's super pompous and pretentious and superior all the time. Situations like this involving parenting and whatnot is a minefield for Meghan because of what we just read. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you have a happy day ahead, and I'll see you next time. Bye.